Welcome back to the Manor Entropians. Julian McBain here, and we are back in Orthos, and I am looking forward to the date that this releases, because that's when Mayhem truly starts, and I am saving up all of my gear, of which I have several swords in reserve, for Mayhem to start. I'm really excited for it. Merry Mayhem is I almost classify it as my favorite Mayhem, mostly because you're not pressed for time to finish. If you start Mayhem and you're actually plugging away at it steadily, you're going to finish. Like, my one complaint about Halloween Mayhem is the fact that they don't really give you nearly enough time to do the Mayhem. If you miss one day, or you don't dedicate, like, entire evenings to it, you could feasibly run out of time, which is unfortunate. I mean, it's the nature of the beast, but it doesn't make it any less unfortunate, you know what I'm saying? So, I am looking forward to that. Be sure there will be videos while I'm doing Mayhem. I was originally going to do this run as a 25 ped controlled cost hunt. I think I'll save that for the other end of Mayhem, or for when we reach our next destination, which I have yet to finalize the decision on. One thing I've been happy to do over the last couple of days is I've been trying to push some of my drone challenge through, which I spent quite a bit of time yesterday on. And I mean, today's Monday. The day I record this is Monday. Of course, you're watching it on Wednesday. It took me several hours to make it to 20% because I'm rank 9 and these things are low level, which is actually a good thing because it shows that you can still make progress no matter what your level or what level you play at in game is. But your total amount of progress is going to be relative to the amount of skin you have in the game, i.e. how much you're willing to put your neck out, stick your neck out to fight. So like these guys, I can largely fight without armor on. I'll have to occasionally heal, or I'll have to back off and just let myself regen, which I think makes sense. I need to grind dodge, and these guys are perfect for grinding dodge, which is why I'm here. But there are a couple of things that I'm going to get more into that in just a minute, but there are a couple of things I want to talk about first. First off, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Manor. Please take a moment and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Also, if you want to support me, please hit the like button and share the video. I am fighting obscurity on my road to 13 million. And more than anything, that is the thing I need to fight. So please consider, if you enjoy what I put out, if you enjoy this content, share this video to your social media to spread the word on who I am and what I do. Thank you so much for your support. So one of the things I need to talk about real quick is from my last video and on the Arcadia Moondeed payouts. And this is something that someone left a comment on. If you give me just a second, I can actually look up who it was, because what they said was relevant. Zeke Saucer. I hope I pronounced that correctly, or Zeke Saucer, because I know X can also be pronounced as an S depending on the context. Said that they thought that my numbers were wrong and they wanted to know my methodology. And to be frank, it was speculation. So I can tell that they're a hardcore analysis person, and as someone who has lived and worked in finance for many years, especially on this particular topic, I can absolutely appreciate where they're coming from, and to a large extent, I think they are correct to do so. And so I wanted to let you all know that I have not put a hard calculation on the amount that just the Moondeeds have put out versus what I paid for them. Now, I did buy them all when they were I believe I bought them all when they were still only $5 a piece. So that will affect the total amount that I need to make off of them to make up the difference with the market value on that day, which at the time was 43 ped. Their calculation methodology was based on the weekly average. I can appreciate that too. Being with my background, I always look at the current spot price, not at what the current I'm going to use the term spot price for this based on the way commodities are done rather than the way like stocks are done because of the way the market works for it. Again, I am required to let you know Nothing on the Entropia Universe platform is an investment vehicle. Nothing I state here is meant to be investment advice. Okay? Now that Finra won't get mad at me, let's continue on. I do not track the payouts of the individual vehicles on this platform. I have two sets. I've got shares and I've got deeds. That's it. I don't separate them by like Arcadia Moon versus Arcadia Underground versus Crystal Palace. I don't have any of the Ancient Greece shares yet, although that's probably on the horizon. I calculate the total for that category and plug it in. And if I like what I see, that's what I go. You know, I keep going on. And I do take the notion of the best length of time to hold anything is forever. When it comes to stuff like this, I think long term, I still feel justified in saying that each one of these choices will be good. Some will be better than others. I mean, obviously, the best one so far has been Calypso land deeds, of which I hold 0. But their return is, last I checked, it's like 9.5%, which is rock fucking solid, as opposed to the 4.5% that Underground deeds and Crystal Palace shares average. Last I calculated, which admittedly was several months ago. And I have not done a good calculation on Moon deeds because they did not have a market value. Now that they have a market value, I can calculate those. I am not going to do that right now. Because I consider this to be entertainment and not a true investment per se, this is my job, my second job. And insofar as that's concerned, it is. But from a literal perspective, it's not. So, like, I have a portfolio, not overly large, but I do have a portfolio, which has actual investments in it. I watch that like a hawk. To make sure I'm not screwing myself. That is where I put my concern, because that is what I need to make sure grows. In here, as long as I feel it's being beneficial, this is my play money. Except for what I pull out of my Patreon to make sure that I can do these videos, which is exactly what I do with that money. The money that I personally put in here is my play money. It's just like when I fed my subscription to World of Warcraft or to Final Fantasy. You know, when I'm not working, this is play. And so, Zeke Saucer was right. I did not have the hard numbers. And maybe I should. Maybe I really should, because that would give me a better assessment. Unfortunately, at this point, that would be very difficult. That doesn't mean I couldn't start from now and go on. I would not have any of the retro information. I'm sure I could probably go back and dig it up. For now, I'm not going to take the time to do that, but I'll take it under advisement. I do want to give a shout to Zeke Saucer for pointing that out to me and thank them for doing so, because it was a very important point to make. And I will make sure that if it is speculation, I will try to disclose, you know, this is my belief, feeling, or speculation on the matter, instead of making it sound like it's more concrete, which I believe I may have overstated. So there. I'm not going to hammer on that anymore, but I did need to put that out there. I thought it was very important, considering I just rambled about it for probably the last 10 minutes. I'm sure you can tell. So, okay. Of course, Night's Fallen, because I'm recording an Entropia Universe video on Calypso. Let's talk about Orthos for a minute, because anytime I come to Calypso, a large number of my videos are recorded right here, if they're not on Royal Club, right? So, you might ask, you know, Julian, why are you in Orthos all the time? Because I love hunting in Orthos. I do. I don't know why. Well, I do know why to a certain extent. But there are a few reasons that I enjoy hunting in Orthos, and I figured I'd take a little bit of time to lay them out. Why I like this area so much, the good and the bad, and some of the history behind it. So, Orthos Oil Field was the original oil field, right? Free oil would drop, players could come in and grab it, and the idea behind it was it's a PvP zone. Players can come in, they can grab some free oil, they'll hunt each other in PvP. Whoever can dominate the area can grab the small amounts of free oil, the modest amounts of free oil that it put out, right? Well, that's not what ended up actually happening. See, if anything can be said of the Entropia platform, it's that the players are very, very inventive. They know how to organize things. So what ended up happening is a group of Ubers basically created an organization where you'd stand in a queue, or a line if you're in America, and newbies would be able to go in turn and pick up a share of the free oil. And if you wanted to, you could get to the back of the line. And to make sure that no one was a ponce, Ubers would stand guard. So if someone started acting a fool, they'd hit them with like an LR-55 and insta-kill them and just lock them out. Well, that wasn't really the design of the area. So, yeah, Mindark filled it with drones, as you can see. Unfortunately, free oil no longer drops from the oil thing. I do wish that they would actually have that work. I think that if you go through all the trouble of killing enough drones to be able to claim the free oil, I think that you should be able to do that. But that's me. Instead, they have now moved the free oil. And I don't know if this was there before, but this PvP zone here is the other oil field. And there are some high-level Aatrox, or they're either Aatrox or Aatrax. They might be Aatrax. And Ubers tend to dominate the area, and they all fight each other for dominance, or someone will close the space out. And you can't get free oil anymore unless you're an Uber, which is kind of silly because they spend huge amounts of money shooting each other for the modest amounts of oil to get out of there. Although I suppose most of them just hunt the mobs there, unless an upstart like me shows up. Or go check out Delusionist's channel, and if you search on YouTube "trolling the Ubers at the oil rig," it is one of the funniest videos in Entropia Universe. I enjoy watching it. When I need a laugh, when I'm having a rough day, I'll put that on, and by the time it's done, I'm giggling enough to where I'm like, okay, cool. But there's another benefit to hunting here. Even though the free oil's gone, the drones drop oil, which is pretty much the only way to get oil if you do nothing but hunting. Like if you're not a miner, this is the easiest way to get oil. Just hunt drones all day. You won't get as much as if you were mining with a high level, mining skill, but you're still going to get them. You also can get things like those guns you just saw that dropped. I think I got a Rubio, and I've got a couple of Lancets. 2 Rubios and 2 Lancets, one of which is full TT, which means that's saleable. I'll have to call Bob. So the benefits to hunting here. 1, you can get a large number of newbie guns, which of course you can sell. For raw percentage, despite the fact that they're not worth very much each, for raw percentage, they've got a relatively high markup. I've seen them go for as much as, if they're not on auction house, I've seen them go for as much as twice their TT value. And if they are on auction house, you're going to make like 50 pec off a 9 pec gun after expenses. That's nothing to sneeze at. It's really not. And there are people who just love the Rubio because it's so cost efficient to hunt with, relatively speaking. I mean, yeah, its total efficiency is really low, but, well, hang on just a second. I'm going to make the point here. As soon as we're done taking out this drone. So we're going to kind of back off here. So with Buchan Spare Rifle, with the amount of ammo I have, it's 25,480 total shots, right? If I equip this Rubio, it's 62,000. Okay? I could go for weeks, I think, shooting with nothing but Rubios. Maybe not weeks, but definitely a long-ass time. So, if all you're looking for is longevity of play and you're hunting like Sabakuma over at Half Moon Cove or Punies at Icarus, it's the perfect weapon. The other thing I like about hunting here in Orthos is the fact that it's a PvP zone. And this is something that may surprise you, but there's a reason behind this. See, Unfortunately, there are players out there that I mentioned in my last video that will deliberately grab absolutely everything. They'll train mobs, they'll just act a fool. Well, there's a couple solutions to that, especially when you get up into the higher levels and you're just hunting here for fun. One, a lot of the players that hunt in this area are still relatively low level. To the point where I had a player walk up to me and start hitting on me with a sword. That's cool. It's PvP zone. I got no problems with that. So I pulled out my own sword, not thinking much of it, thinking, oh, if they're hunting players here without armor on, they're probably an Uber, right? They were, and I believe they were in tailored clothes, so they weren't just wearing like a jumpsuit, okay? They'd spent a little money on their avatar, and they bought some tailored clothing. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be someone with some experience. So I pulled out my LB25 at the time, I think it was. And I hit them, and all of a sudden, most of their HP disappeared. I'm like, oh, I feel kind of bad now. I would have pulled out something that was a little more their level, so that it would be a challenge for me and not upsetting for them, because I don't want to be like the guy that's just like, oh look how quaint, smash. No. I want there to be them to have a chance. Now, if it's someone who's hitting me with like an LR55, which has happened before, I jump in my nice little sleepnir and start carpet bombing the area. That's happened once or twice. Or, you know, my buddy Lorespeed shows up and then we carpet bomb them together. Which has only happened once. But yeah, that has happened where I had a couple players that just decided they wanted to kill me. They wouldn't let me in the area, so I loaded up with explosive projectiles, and then I carpet bombed the oil field. I'll never turn down PvP. I much prefer to receive a challenge first. And only once or twice have I ever just sniped people. And I realized I didn't really find that fun, but that's me. People want to snipe, that's fine. And I'll reserve the right to snipe you back. That's cool. But that's why I like being in a PvP zone. Because when you're here, there's no guile. You know that you put yourself on the line. You're allowing players to hunt you. And in turn, they understand that they are also on the line and you can hunt them. And if they do hunt you, you might come back and hunt them back. Now, this is not a lootable area, which I'm thankful for. So there is that. You know, anything you put in here, you're not going to be able to loot off of it. They're not going to be able to loot off of you, which is cool. But it forces courtesy. Let's put it that way. That's one of the things I like about the PvP is it doesn't, most of the time, the PvP in Entropia Universe doesn't harm the gameplay. It forces courtesy. Because if you're incourteous, you might get shot and have to go back to the revive terminal because, you know, it's a game and therefore death is just an inconvenience, not an actual problem. Kind of like in Altered Carbon. And you just come back and you heal your ass and up, or you just stand there and wait to regen and you go back to what you were doing and maybe next time you won't act a fool. The other thing is I like mining end matters here. There is a high end matter concentration. You can just select end matters and you can drop probes, and there's a lot of oil, of course, that you can get here, but there's also a lot of the Acelinis liquid, which is high markup. And I've always had really good luck here relative to other areas. And so if I decide I'm just going after end matters, I'll pop around here and just drop probes, which I haven't done in a long time here. I did it on Cyrene for a while. I'll admit I don't find mining as much fun as I do hunting. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the labor to benefit ratio, understanding that my mining skills are absolute trash. But maybe that's just me. It's my personality. The other thing is that in this area, there are certain skills you can grind relatively easily, even though it's slow, that are harder to do in other areas. Drones in particular give out certain skills that most other mobs don't. Specifically dodge, because most of their weapons are ranged, although these will engage you in close combat if you get close enough. and the, I think it's called reclaiming skill, which helps with your robot looter. Not many other places can you really grind those skills out. So this is a good area to do it in a place where you don't have to use armor, which means the amount of decay you suffer is lower. That being said, this kind of brings along about the idea of the meta for Entropia Universe. Because if we look at these things, right? We'll take the next one. Get into first-person view. They remind me of Cylons. They really do. I mean, yeah, you don't have the eye flitting back and forth, but the gun arm, the claw arm, the fact that they were originally created essentially by humans as a servant race, and then they ended up running away to the stars, and now they are a constant problem. Now, the meta here, it doesn't quite work the same way it did in Battlestar Galactica, of course. In Battlestar Galactica, the Cylons came back, and then they dropped nukes on all the colonies, and then people were running away, and it was this whole to-do. At least in the newer version. It's been so long since I've seen the original Battlestar Galactica, I need to dig it up and watch it again. And yes, I actually do enjoy those older shows, thank you. One of my favorite movies is still Short Circuit. But anyway. So, in the meta, and this is the short version, I suggest going to the Planet Calypso website and reading it verbatim. Or verbatim, rather. Wow, can't pronounce words tonight. They sent automated ships to the Calypso system to prepare it for colonization. When the colonists finally got there, the robots were all gone. The place was prepared. Then the drones came back, started killing on people. And then, there was a war, and the colonists technically won. And then they realized the only way to continue fighting the drones was to harvest them. But the only way to do that was to allow them to continue invading so that they could keep harvesting the parts that they needed. And so, this low-grade war has been happening for however long that this has been a thing. So, IRL, 17 years now, I think. And they've just accepted that this is part of life because they need to continue the war in order to gather the resources off the drones that the drones are developing in order to fight the drones and prevent another mass invasion, which is ironic to say the least. I also want to point out that the almost oligarchic nature of the Entropia Universe mythos. You've got major corporations that run major operations. You've got the Federal Empire, which I don't know the entire makeup of the Federal Empire, but frankly speaking, I think they based it off the United States. Not to put too fine a point on it, because let's be facing it. I'm a U.S. citizen, I'm an American, and I'm in politics. From an academic standpoint, the United States is a federal empire. It is. We have an elected president. It's true, and I'm not going to go too deep into it. But if you look at from a constructive standpoint, we're essentially a federated empire, and there's no way we can, to the point where other countries call us the American Empire. So you can't deny it. But this also brings it. I found that kind of funny. It's actually, if you look at it from this other perspective, the other thing I wanted to point out there is that these drones, which operate much like the Cylons or like the robots from iRobot, this could happen in real life from the conceptual standpoint could happen in real life. And here's why. Currently, we are working toward development of AI. We have some AI, some of it's rudimentary, some of it's more advanced. You have some of them have been developed as tools, others as experiments, and still more as companions. A good example is Replica, which is actually an AI chatbot. It still has a fairly rudimentary intelligence from what I understand. I don't know 100% because although I did download the app, I haven't set it up yet. It's something that I want to experiment with because I try to be an early adopter of technology insofar as I can be. And Replica's been out for a while, but AI chatbots are still relatively new, like ones with actual intelligence. And the developer of Replica keeps upgrading the intelligence matrix of Replica so that it gets better and better. There are other ones out there that I'm keeping my eyes on. One of my favorites is Shizuna AI, or Shizuna AI. She is a virtual YouTuber, and I think she might have been the first. She plays video games, and she's totally AI. And from what I understand, the story behind Shizuna AI is the programmers of Shizuna AI told her, they developed the intelligence and said, okay, you need an avatar. And she said, okay, well, what's my avatar? You know, and they're like, no. We want you to choose an avatar that will best sell you as a character so that we can spread the word about you. So, of course, she chose an anime schoolgirl, which I about fell out of my chair laughing when I discovered this. Other ones that exist include Sophia. Now, Sophia is a robot with an AI. So, her intelligence is less... Assuming that Shizuna is a true AI, the stories are correct about her. I have no way of verifying this. But the reports are out there, including from Japan, and the Japanese media companies tend to be fairly thorough, so long as it isn't a matter of national security. So I have no reason to disbelieve that Shizuna is what she purports to be. Sophia's AI is more rudimentary than Shizuna's, but not by a lot, and she has a body, which means she is potentially autonomous. Now, I don't know how much she can move, but she is an early look at what a gynoid. She would technically be a gynoid because she is of the female gender, or constructed in such a way to be of that gender. She is a look at what an early gynoid or android would look like. And then there was Andrew, which was an android that also was an early look. And here's the thing. All three of these passed the Turing test. Okay? They passed the Turing test, which means they are aware of themselves. Now, does that make them sentient? That's a question. That is a question. How can you really determine sentience? But they are self-aware. And that is, if that isn't the key to sentience, it is certainly a major step toward it. So, I think that the idea behind the drones here, we need to pay attention to these plot lines that we developed in science fiction. Your Short Circuits, your Battlestar Galacticas, iRobot, okay? Terminator, for Christ's sake. The Borg, which I'm going to get into more here in just a minute. We need to pay attention to these stories because they are oftentimes cautionary tales. This does not mean we stop developing AI. This means that as we develop AI, we need to maintain a good relationship with the AI we develop. We must remember not to develop them to serve. If we are going to develop them, we develop them as companions or as friends. People to help us, and then we can help them. The instant we decide that we are going to literally invent a species, a mechanical species designed for service, we are shooting ourselves in the foot, and all of these shows and movies are cautionary tales against it. So if you are in that development sphere, or if you pay attention to that development sphere, make sure that you are on that line saying, look, this is the line. We need to make sure that we aren't doing this for the wrong reasons. And this leads into the other piece that I kind of wanted to get into. You know, I've hammered on the whole idea behind the fact that we are pretty much now in the cyberpunk dystopia. I firmly believe this. In fact, I am basing a whole podcast on this to be released next year. # shameless self-promotion. Neuralink. Elon Musk is pretty much my fucking hero at this point. And I would totally volunteer to be an experimental or a test subject for Neuralink. I have some neurological things. I'm not going to get into them. They don't matter because they don't affect my day-to-day life for the most part. Because I have learned how to handle them. That being said, that means that I could benefit from something like Neuralink, and being someone that can tell the difference between when something is affecting me or not, I would be a good test. In my opinion, I'd be a good test subject. That's up for the scientists to decide. But I would like to be one of the test subjects. But that also brings about the question. That's wetware. Welcome to wetware. Yeah. Yeah, kids, that's right. It's not just a cochlear implant, which was really the first real wetware. It was actually a combination wetware, dryware. Neuralink is wetware. It's implanted. Okay? We're not talking like an RFID chip they just slip under your skin. No. We're talking an honest, integrated digital component to your body that becomes part of you. Okay? Welcome to the goddamn future. So this brings about all kinds of questions as to the potential of what could come about. Now, things that I see happening in my lifetime, assuming my actuarial life expectancy of 89 years. So I'm 36 now. That gives me roughly another 60 years. No, that would be 96. 55 years. That gives me 55 years left, right? I haven't even lived the majority of my life yet. I expect to see digitized memory in my lifetime, where we can literally digitize memory out of our minds onto some sort of digital medium, for lack of a better allegory, like if we could download our memory onto an SD card, right? But obviously more advanced. And this could help people with things like Alzheimer's, because they could download their memory onto a chip, and when they needed that memory, they could recall it from the chip. Is it perfect? No, but it's definitely going to help, and I think Neuralink is going to help too. There is a danger here, though, because from what I understand, Neuralink is going to be Wi-Fi capable. You see the brilliance here? If you can hook up to the Wi-Fi with your brain, at what point do we become the Borg? I mean, obviously, so long as we can retain our individuality, which to a certain extent the Borg could. They do explore some of that with like 7 of 9 and Hugh, who is also 5 of 7 originally in the XBs. It is a concern. It is a concern that someone with an overpowering personality and the skills of a hacker could hack the Neuralink of other people through the web, and possibly, in a future version of Neuralink, take control, or so heavily influence their thought patterns that we could become a hive mind. I don't like that idea. I kind of like my individuality, thank you. But at the same time, I don't want to sacrifice the possibilities of what this wetware can do for the dangers of what it could become. I feel that the benefit outweighs the risks. And I mean that. So, I mean, drop a comment below. What do you all think about it? You know, do you think we're on the path to becoming the Borg? Or do you think we're more on the path of like an Altered Carbon or a Shadowrun, where we have all these cybernetic implants, and yeah, we can link up, or a Ghost in the Shell, where you can actually link up with each other and even possibly swap bodies but still retain your individuality? I think it would be cool to know. In the meantime, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. As always, I appreciate your support, and we'll see you in the next one.